What is happening, sports fans? It's been a while. It is your main man Matt from the DFS 5 pack. I am not rocking it solo. I'm not with Ryan either. I'm with my main man Jason. Our second video that we've made during this quarantine. The LOL season, the LPL more specifically, is back tonight. So I never thought I'd be this pumped for this, honestly, my man. But as you know, by the massive amount of DMs I send you, I am hyped. I know you're hyped. What are you most excited for tonight before we start off? And guys, if you don't know, before he even talks, I'm sorry to cut you off before you begin. He is writing for Rotoballer, so all our customers, anyone who's not a customer, go check that out. Great work, and I'm excited to have him on vid. So go ahead, talk for a bit.
Okay, so the LPL will be back tonight. I suppose Friday morning will be the official kickoff. The overnight thing that most people aren't accustomed to, but we certainly are. It'll run now 2 games every day from now until August 9th. And in about a week and a half on the 17th here, the LCK, the Korean Championship Series, will join up. And so we'll have 4 game slates overnight most days during the week. But for the first week and a half here, we're just going to have these 2 gamers. But I'm still excited to see the rest of the boys back in action. That mid-season cup just ended, and that sort of wet the whistle and got us ready to get back into this on a daily grind.
That was fun. I'll tell you, I don't love 2 game slates. Part of me likes them, but what I'll say about these is the best of 3 really changes things. I think the best of 1s are too random. Dealing with that in CSGO right now. You talk about sleeps or waking up in the middle of the night. That is really taking up a lot of my time now too, and I love it when I'm winning, but I hate it when I'm losing, kind of like anything else. But it's really frustrating when you lose. Just if you play it, you know that feeling. Today kicked my ass, so I'm really excited to talk over some LOL, man. I wish we had a couple better games on tap, but maybe that's just me being naive, having not looked into it enough, not remembering the teams. The first thing I want to ask you about, though, I'm going to start sharing my screen and pull up DK.
Go ahead.
Is okay, and again, I could not play this game and be good at it. Am I screen sharing now? Are you seeing my DK screen?
Gotcha.
I've heard that there is a new meta for this through this season and for this gameplay. How is that going to affect us DFS players, if at all?
Well, there's some conflicting reports out there, but generally speaking, everyone is on the new patch 10.11, and 10.11 has issued some nerfs. It's different from the patch that they played MSC on, which was 10.10, and it's buffed the ADC position a little bit. So a lot of the lineups you see tonight, usually it's going to be ADC focused anyway, but this is going to make it even a little more.
Really?
I'm being told. So Huang Feng captain, Zhui Meng captain, Light captain.
Did I read something? Was I incorrect in reading that? And was I incorrect in reading that the top position could be affected? Could benefit because of this? Am I mistaken there?
It's going to come down to the individual players. Someone like Morgan does a lot of carrying for WE. So he could be good. But I like AOD as well. So just like last split where you've got, the Shy can go anywhere from a 95 to a 100-point game like he's an ADC to a 30-point game where he dies 9 times. It'll come down to a lot of matchups.
So basically what you're telling me is just like anything else. Like the gameplay might have changed a little bit, but it's really going to come down to the players. Like we don't have to focus on that too much. Because why would we? I do think, and a strategy that I have for LOL, I don't multi-enter for most any other sport, but for LOL I do, because it seems that if you just pick the 2 winning teams, you will, even if you don't have the right, let's say the chalk captain hits and you're splitting first and you have that lineup because you've max entered all those combinations, that sucks. But even your lineups with the jungle at captain will usually cash, and then occasionally when the top or the junglers go off, you're taking it down without that many people splitting. So that's an advantage I've found for multi-entering. I don't know. Obviously, you have to have a little bit of skin in the game to multi-enter, and it sucks when your team loses because then you're pretty much done. But I'm excited to break this slate down, man. Let's start. You were just talking about with the guys from EDG. And before we even break down the games, which team, they're both about minus 200 favorites tonight. Which team do you think has the better chance of the upset?
Oh man, we just saw EDG and WE. They played the second to last day of the spring split they played, and EDG had already confirmed their playoff spot, whereas WE were playing to get into the playoffs, and WE won that 2-1. So I do think that WE is probably the more likely upset here. When the line opened, I think it was minus 225 to EDG, which I thought was a little big. Most preseason tier lists you see going around now have the EDG rated a couple of spots higher than Team WE, which I think is about right. If Scout stays on form and the mid-jungle duo gets going, Hope was actually excellent last split, so I do think EDG is better, but WE is probably the higher ranked of the underdogs here to me.
Okay, well, let's just start with that game. I am interested in talking about the second game. It's the game that starts a couple hours later. I'm interested in talking about that, but we might as well go chronologically here. So you talked about it, that these teams met recently, and when we say recently, like as recent as they could have met because they've been off for a couple months, but they did meet recently. We took that game, and as you mentioned, a game that they needed where EDG did not. EDG is the better team. I agree with you, and I like EDG here. For everything that I've looked and I've seen, and I've done a little bit of research on this slate so far, it looks like We is getting good ownership. It looks like both these teams are getting similar ownership, and that makes me like EDG even more. It looks like you had something to say there.
Yeah, it's interesting that FanDuel actually has WE as the highest price team across the board. So
I can't imagine they'll get that much love there.
Yeah, no, I don't think they will either over there. So they're kind of going to be the chalk on DK a little bit, I think, for, a little bit contrarian build. But on FanDuel, they are definitely not going to be, because nobody's going to want to pay up for a team that is in a dog spot like that.
Listen, I think that, and this always happens on two-game slates, and I love breaking this down. EDG will get more love than we because they're the minus 180 favorite here. But as you talked about before, of the two underdogs, 8 or 9 out of 10 people think that we has a better chance than LNG. So Sunning is the priority, and they will use we because they just beat EDG as opposed to using LNG. So I'm interested to get your take on that second game, but that's how I see ownership breaking off, and I think we gets love where they really shouldn't get love.
Not as much as I think they're going to get, yeah. And they're a more variant style team. Think of them as like a great value FPX. FPX relies on Do and Be getting out of the mid lane, roaming around the map, and creating mismatches everywhere else, and not so much worrying about himself. Teacher Ma does a similar thing. If you look at a couple of his main champions, he plays the Galio, he plays that Aurelion Soul. Both of those are designed to move across the map quickly. Galio with his ultimate, Aurelion Soul with just his movement and his ability to glide over obstacles. So they're kind of a great value FPX, looking to roam, looking to create advantages everywhere else on the map and get out of that mid lane. Whereas EG are more buttoned down. They're more a straightforward mid lane mage type of scenario with Scout. Syndra was nerfed from the MSC in a hot fix. We saw Knight really pop off with that Syndra pick during the MSC. That's been toned down a little bit, but it's going to be more standard League of Legends coming out of EDG, which I think is... I'm not going to say one is more correct than the other because we've seen FPX win the world title with a roaming style. But I think it's a little safer. The EDG style is. They want to button down, farm, win lane, win game, scale up, front to back team fight. And WE want to get a little wild with it. And so I think that's why I'm leaning more towards EDG. I just think their style is a little safer, less variant.
I think that I'm going to draw a line in the sand and go pretty heavy on EDG tonight because I think we is getting a little bit too much love for the spot they're in. I get it because there's only two underdogs, and it's hard. You can't fit, captaining the ADC for EDG or Sunning really. You can't do that like ideal build that everyone wants to. It's not. You can make a couple concessions, and it's not that hard, but that easy build that everyone wants is hard with Sunning and EDG. Now, what I will say, to your point, I don't know if it'll work tonight, but I do love the idea, and I'm going to do a little of this, of using some EDG and Sunning lineups with one-offs from Wii and hoping that that series goes 3 and that one of your guys carries that team in their one win. Now, usually the winning lineups have, 4 and 3, the guys from the winning teams. But when you have these best of 3 series, you get a little bit weird with it. And guys from Wii, I've seen take down GPPs like that. What's your take?
I think that's right. I think that's the way to go. Just with the closeness of the matchups, even though I'd say Suning is probably the more likely team to 2-0, but it's tough. They opened as a big favorite too.
I'll say this. I don't know much about the game. I'm sorry to cut you off, but I want to say this about 2-0 and 2-1. So, again, I'm going to preface this by saying I don't know a lot about the game, but I've watched a bunch and I'm a quick learner. Series can be close, but still be 2-0 because the games are just, close, but they just happen to go both to the winner. So it's not really, the series was a blowout because it was a 2-0. It's not really like that a lot of times. Go ahead. Sorry.
Nope, you're okay. Yeah, I think with the way they're going to be, to me, in my head, these are both probably looking at 3-game series. So if you go heavy EDG and EDG sweeps, I think that is going to be in itself, it'll be a little contrarian just to go into a 4-2 or a 4-3 kind of scenario with them being heavy and looking for them to sweep, whereas everyone else is going to be looking to Suning to be the one that sweeps.
Great point.
And if they're going to be close, then I think 3-3 is going to be, or even 3-2-1 with that one-off coming from a losing team is going to be more the optimal, well, maybe not optimal, but the GPP winning line, I'd say. Because nowadays, if you're playing any of the max entries, even down to the 20 max, I think you have to build suboptimally and get a little lucky to win that GPP, as opposed to building that optimal lineup like you were talking about before, that everybody wants to jam in ADC captain and then 4-3 stack it and be done.
Listen, because you're just splitting first with a ton of people, and it happens a lot. It's annoying as hell. I mean, you can max enter some of those tournaments and not even win your money back, and when you take first, depending on how your other lines are, it's very annoying. That's why using a one-off from Wii is intriguing, because a lot of times you do want to build suboptimally. It's a great way to put it. Who's your favorite player from Wii if you wanted to use a one-off?
If I am going to do a one-off from WE, I think it's probably got to be my man Beishang. He's going to be, he plays a lot of assassins and carries in the jungle. And so he could easily come out of a win being the guy who's like Kanavi did for JDG several times. Like we have seen Beishang do in the past. My boy Meteor from BLG. Some of these carry-oriented strong junglers can come out and basically win the game before an ADC collects all his items and comes online. So you can see them get an even amount of score to that ADC if they both put up 35 in a win, or he manages to get to 38 or 39. That could be the difference maker right there. So I think if I'm doing a one-off, it would probably be Beishang or maybe Morgan. If they run something powerful in the top lane, his Aatrox is pretty good, where you'd see him pop off right away. And in a similar scenario, that top or jungle will be able to carry through the early game on into the late before the mid laner and the ADC come online and be able to outscore in that game that they win and hold even in the games that they lose.
I love that. I know that he's a guy that's done well for me before. I love that call. I'm going to have exposure there tonight for sure, even though, I'm not going to have much Wii. I definitely want some Beishang for sure. Let's pivot over to this second game because, it's intriguing to me because everyone's just writing it off. LNG's basically got no shot, and yet the lines are basically the same. So I know that, the lines for LOL are not as sharp nearly as they are for other sports because they just don't know as much about it, and it's just completely different. That being said, Vegas has never given away free money. So if they thought something was that much better than LNG, they'd be bigger favorites. They're minus 200. That's big enough. But everything I've read about LNG is that they're in disarray. They're in a rebuilding stage. Sunning's coming to play. He has the same squad as last year. Is Vegas not giving them enough respect, or what's the deal here? Break this down for me.
I think LNG are, I picked Suning to win, but I think a couple things are in our favor here in this one is that LNG, sort of towards the end of the split, they basically collapsed. They weren't making the playoffs. They knew they weren't making the playoffs. They start trying some new stuff out. Even in this, our starters have been announced. It's Chenlun instead of Flandre in the top lane. That's kind of a big one, but that's definitely a look to the future. Flandre's a veteran. He's been there for a long time.
They were doing that last split, though.
Yeah, yep. But I think they've had time off to work on this now. Instead of just Tuesday, it's Flandre. Okay, now Thursday, that didn't work. We're throwing out Chenlun. If they've been planning to do this for a while, I would imagine. They've been running scrims and working together on this for 2-3 weeks now. And usually I'll say this longer lead up time, more prep is going to be better for bad teams, for worse teams, because they're not as good at prepping. But now they got more time. And so it's going to equalize a little bit. That being said, I think this might be that spot for LNG. Tomorrow you look at V5 and Demo. It's a similar situation. Demo, I think, is minus 400 right now tomorrow. And they have offseason upheaval, and they're not that much better than V5. V5 pulled in a bunch of new players. Getting ahead of myself there, but that's a spot tomorrow where I'm going to be looking to have some V5 exposure. And I think I'm not going to just count out LNG because they look beaten at the end of last split. When they faced off in the middle of last split, LNG was actually the favorite in this matchup.
Really? Oh, man. God, that tickles. I mean, I was already leaning LNG. When you say something like that, I mean, that melts my heart. That is like right where I want it. Inject that into my veins. Seriously, I need more of that. Who won that matchup? Do you know?
That was Suning did win that 2-0 or 2-1, okay. 2-1, but it was a tight matchup.
So things have changed, but the point being is that everyone is on Suning tonight, and LNG was favored the last time they played. So again, where I'm going to draw a line is I'm going to have a lot of EDG. I'm going to definitely use a lot of Sunning with them because they're the favorite, but I'm also going to use some LNG with them because I think that LNG is going to be way under-owned compared to we, and I'd rather just give LNG all the ownership I would give to we. And that brings me to our next point. We've talked a little bit about LNG, or you have. How good is Suning? Is this all about LNG that people think they're a disarray? Like, how good is Suning? Because I don't remember Suning ever being a team that, like, we were, I mean, they were mediocre. Again, I don't know that much. I only played one split. Go ahead.
I think that, yeah, they might be a tier better than LNG. But again, like I said, early in the split, I don't think that matters quite as much. The changes that LNG have made, bringing in Light and bringing in Chenlun and Iwandi to the starting lineup, I'm assuming that's not something they just decided this morning at 9 o'clock when the lineups came out. They've been working on this since they went down out of the playoffs in spring. They were working on moving Flandre. They wanted to trade him, cash concessions or a young prospect, something like that, I would imagine, as LOL trades are a little different. But they look to move him in the off season. So they've got the youth movement coming through here. They're looking to move up in the league. They got a new head coach. So I think Suning takes it, but there's factors that say that, like you said, I think for the worth of the ownership discount we'll be getting on LNG, it's probably worth some shots there, especially with one of Suning's big strengths is Huang Feng, their bot laner, their ADC. He really favored Misfortune last split, like heavily favored. If I can pull my stats up here quick, I'll take a look at that for you. But he kind of a Misfortune main, you'd almost say, in the last split. And she's taken some nerfs now. So I'd look for him to be maybe a little depressed. And he's their main avenue of victory. He played 20 games of Misfortune. He was 11-9 last split. His next most played champion was 6 games.
Okay, wow.
So with Misfortune going down in priority, Varus, the Kaisa, a couple other things coming up, he's going to have to show some versatility. And he's had time off to work on it. But, we'll see what happens.
And I don't think I need that much LNG to like be over the field. And I know guys that max enter these tournaments, guys like Osimo, et cetera, like they'll draw a line in the sand with one of these teams. Like let's say it's Wii. Let's say they love Wii. They'll use Wii and they'll pair them with Suning and LNG, like basically every combination that you can. And that's kind of what you have to do. Obviously, most people aren't max entering, but you talked about building the suboptimal builds. If LNG wins and you use some LNG, you can kind of avoid all that with the ownership because a lot of people won't be on them. I don't know.
Right. Yep. Just having any exposure to them will put you over the field on them, I would almost say. I mean, 2-game slate, nobody's going to be 1%, 2%, 3%, but you could see them 10, 11, 12, 15 maximum, and that's going to be a huge difference maker.
That's small on a 2-game slate. Exactly. No one. Guys that are 1% on a 2-game slate, you shouldn't own. There's a reason that they're 1 or 2%. You're just getting too weird with that. But taking a shot on these guys when Wii is going to be, I think Wii comes in at like 25 to 30%. They're not going to be like chalk, but I think they're like somewhere between 25 and 30%, depending on the guy. What do you think?
I'd even maybe go a little higher. That's one thing I'm not great at is projecting that ownership, but I would say that, WE is probably going to be 60-40 or 40-60 to EDG. And then the other matchup is going to be more like 80-20.
And like the thing also about EDG, and again, I don't know too much about these teams, but EDG is the best team playing tonight. Like they're the most proven team. If we were ranking these teams that were playing tonight, EDG would be the number one easily. Am I right?
Correct. They've had a long history of success in the LPL. They've got a very established coaching system, team. They're just everything. They've recently, with my main man Uzi retiring, UZI, RNG's longtime ADC. Just tears, man. I'm telling you. But EDG just hyped up their off base tough to say here. What I want to look for, occupational therapy, is they've got a real good setup with even their workout and their nutrition and their yoga and all that sort of stuff that they're putting these players through in their downtime when they're not playing, just to help them, stave off shoulder injuries and back problems and carpal tunnel and things like that. People always, what's this guy missing this game for? He just plays computer games. Well, he's in that chair 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours a day, not sleeping, eating fast food. It's a thing.
It's definitely a thing. There's like big money in this too. It's definitely a thing. Once you start watching it and like learning more about it, you know that it's a thing. I mean, you watch these Twitch casts, and I watch this stuff all the time because I hardly sleep. I mean, a random CSGO game, 40, 50,000 people watching, depending on the time, 60, 70,000 people watching. LOL is double that at least. So, yeah, man, I'm hyped to watch this stuff tonight. I always say, and the thing I love about LOL is, you don't have to watch it. You can just sleep through it and then wake up, and hopefully if your teams win, you hit. But, every time I say that, I find myself waking up wanting to watch it because it's so exciting.
It's intense. It really is. When people start piling in to these big 5v5 team fights at the end of the game, and if things go one way, you're coming out with 3, 4, 5 figures, and if it goes the other way, you're not even going to become close to sniffing it. I think one of the things that's so important about LOL is that it's, out of anything that I play from a DFS perspective, it's the thing that has the most correlation to, if your team wins, you're winning. A losing wide receiver can still catch a 70-yard bomb, and he's getting you the fantasy points. Harden can go out and drop a triple-double and get you 85 DK points and still lose the game. In League, if they lose the game, it's odd that you've got that one-off like we were talking about earlier with Beishang, but it can happen. But I think the League is the most correlated between just winning and winning.
It can definitely happen. It is more, I think that when you have the best of ones, it allows for some more randomness to happen.
Right.
For sure. Esports in
general. That with weird lineups too, where you top laner or jungle captain, things like that work much better on those slates. So if we take that one off, I'm definitely not putting him in the captain slot.
Yeah, I've
That
noticed.
that only works for like a one gamer, but in a 3 game they'll be definitely depressed.
I've noticed esports in general, that has a lot of correlation with the winning team, and that's not to say that like game stacks and stuff and guys from losing teams can't take it down. I remember one of the first LOL slates I played was, God, it wasn't the LPL, it was one of the other ones, like the North American one, and it was a big favorite. Who they were, but the game stack, it was like a 5 game series, and each game like went off. But that's the only time I've seen that happen. Is like that one time it happened where a game stack really, in the series took it down. It's rare, everything happens, but yeah, being on the winning side is where it's at for LOL.
Yep, definitely.
So, all right, man. Well, we got games, 2 games at least every night until the LCK comes back. When the LCK comes back, that will be a nice little interesting twist into it because the LCK is a little bit lower scoring, but they also get depressed ownership, and it just adds more randomness and more varieties. And you can get one-offs from winning teams, which helps. So it allows for different rosters, which is fun. I don't know what your thoughts are.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I always like to target the LCK teams and try and differentiate myself that way. Stack up LPL players, get that LCK team in there because they're more objective based. And if you've watched any of it, you know it just instantly. You can tell. Oh, this game is 18 minutes long and there haven't been a kill yet. I must be watching the LCK. This game is 5 minutes long and there are 10 people in the bot lane underneath 2 turrets trying to destroy each other. We must be playing LPL.
That shit is frustrating as all hell when you like stack up a team and there's no kills, because that's if that happens. Okay, we just talked about like a game stack, because that did happen in one of the LPL finals games. I remember.
Yes.
Where it was like,
yep, that Jingdong game, 32 minutes or something before there was a kill.
If you get a game like that in one of these games, then a game stack, if the other one has a ton of kills and goes 3, could potentially take it down, but you need like crazy shit to happen, for lack of better terms. And I'm not playing like that. I'm gonna, like I said, go pretty hard on EDG and use a lot of sunning and then some LNG. And I'm pumped, man. So whenever you want to vid again, I know that people like it. I love it. And thanks for coming on with me, bro.
Definitely. Always a pleasure. I love talking about this stuff. And maybe not tomorrow, but I think maybe we can get back for Saturday for the Sunday slate. That'd be awesome. I'd look forward to that.
I know it's late, guys, but the slate doesn't start till 5 a.m. Eastern, so you still got a ton of hours to watch it. I love how these slates start in not the middle of the night, but really early morning. I get up and I feel like I'm just by myself, nobody, my wife bothering me. It's just very tranquil until the team fights start, and then I get all hyped.
Right. Yep. I usually I'll sit down on the couch. I get home from work. I work overnight, so that's why I'm always watching this stuff. Because I'm at work and I get off work and then I'll just kind of sit there on the couch and just whoop whoop. But everyone else is asleep, so I kind of gotta clamp down a little bit to try and keep the shouts. That's why I don't like the NA slates and the LEC slates as much because they're going on in the middle of the day. And I distinctly remember getting yelled at because I was doing dishes during the EU Masters when EU Masters was on. Who'd I have? I had Rogue, I think, and their ADC got caught out on Ezreal. Ezreal, one of the most mobile champions. You can't get caught out on Ezreal. You have your flash, you've got your arcane shift, you got multiple ways to dash and escape and he dashes forward, gets caught, and I just like drop the plate I'm washing into this thing. Jesus, and she's like, oh, Jason. Why did he just calm down? Like, yeah, he shouldn't have done that.
Sad part is I know exactly what you're talking about. They were playing LDLC, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I never thought I'd see the day.
Well, arcane shifts forward into melee range and gets knocked up.
Garbage. They had that game won. That was like in the first weekend of the EU Masters. They had that shit won and they gave it up. It was, that's the other thing. In LOL, just like anything else, their comebacks are rare because, most of the time the team that's winning just wins the game, but they happen. And it makes it really exciting. You never know when they're going to happen.
Yep. The individual outplays and, just a tiny misclick can really really send you spiraling out of control, or get that hope coming back in your heart that, hey, oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
man.
usually, and I feel like I remember asking you this, and we, like, just like anything else, when the better team is losing, it's more likely to come back, just like in any other sport. And you see it time and time again. When the team that's supposed to be winning is winning early, it's rare that the underdog comes back. But that's just like
Right.
anything else.
Yep, you've got your good teams are good at trading.
Mm-hmm.
They'll lose less and they'll win more is a good way to think of it. If somebody gets a kill top lane and tries to translate that into that Rift Herald, so they can get some early turret pressure, the other team might overload on the bottom side of the map because they know they're losing the top side, so they'll come hard on the bottom to try and even that out and mitigate that loss and try and create a win for themselves somewhere else. Trade that Rift Herald for a dragon or a tower bot side.
When I'm on like a big favorite, I never even get worried if they get down a couple kills early. But if I'm on like an underdog, they need to get up early. Like they need to get up early, you know? Because the good teams just don't fall. Like once they get up, they don't let the bad teams. They just get up more and more. The next thing you know, they're up, 5,000 gold, and it's like 15 minutes into the game. But that's a story for another day.
This is true.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. Thank you. And I'm going to stop recording now in half hour, just like you called it.
Yep.